Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today I have taken the Azrai up against the Lizardmen. This is indeed one of my own battles. Figured I'd spice in one of my own. We're going to be back to the tournament action shortly, but this is a practice game I fought against Pharaoh War. He said it was cool with me showing it to you guys, so I wanted to go ahead and do that. This is a build I've been playing around with quite a bit recently up against the Lizardmen, and it's something that's very effective. You guys might have seen me use it in earlier replays or in my best of 5 against Lore Master of Sotek. It's a very, very good build, and there's definitely some counters I can think of, but let's go ahead and go over it. We've got a Glady on a horse. I said before she's the most competitive option, and I do believe so. She's very cheap in the guys I've got her. She's got the Prey of Anathrema, just for that pin and place ability. I cut the Arrow of Karnas because it's currently bugged in terms of its accuracy. It's actually very inaccurate and seems to rarely hit. She's also carrying this Banner of the Eternal Queen here, which gives a 6% ward save and +4 leadership in an area of effect around her, which is a really, really nice little buff there. 6% damage resistance may not seem like a lot, but it can definitely stack up. She's also got the Eye of Karnas ability, giving that increased missile damage in an area of effect around her. So very good stuff. That's why she's going to be riding around with these Glade Riders with Hagbane tips kind of as her posse. Those buffs will apply to these guys as well. So for the infantry line, we've got 2 War Dancers in the center, supported by a Branch Wraith. Branch Wraith is carrying Milkoth's Mystifying Miasma and Earthblood, as well as the melee attack buff. Earthblood obviously for healing, and Milkoth's Mystifying Miasma is to help protect the backline. If we get forces compromising through, we can cast that Milkoth's Mystifying Miasma to slow them down while we reposition the archers, and then, turn and fire. So, in terms of the archers, we do have 4 units of Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts. These guys can do a ton of armor piercing, magic damage, flaming damage, a lot of utility here. There's only a couple situations where these guys are a no-go, but in pretty much every matchup except maybe the High Elves, I would say the Starfire Shafts are the way to go. We've also got 2 Spear Dancers, as well as, of course, the 4 Eternal Guard with shields, just for that armor piercing anti-large. Eternal Guards are honestly one of the best choices in the game up against the Lizardmen. They have 46 melee defense, anti-large armor piercing for, relatively cheap, and very, very good unit to take against the dinos. So we've also got the Sisters of Thorn, of course. I always bring at least one of these guys in pretty much every matchup. These ladies are very, very strong and seem to easily pay for themselves. They've got a lot of support buffs, some nice missile damage, 50% physical resistance means they'll take relatively little damage against regular type attacks, but they are very, very squishy against magic type attacks, especially magic missiles, so be careful of things like, the silver bullets, or even, a unit of archers with Flaming Sword of Ruin will absolutely shred these guys because they get that magic damage. So do be aware there are some counters, but Sisters of Thorn, if they're not effectively countered, can be very, very scary. So in terms of Pharaoh War's build, he's done what I think is the right, it's the right idea up against the Wood Elves, which is to not go super dino heavy. In fact, his forces are led by Kroq-gar, but he's just on a horned one here, I believe. Yep, it does look like the horned one. He still retains that armor piercing, anti-large, heavy weapon strength, 120 armor, and great combat stats. He just doesn't have the terror. He does have fear, no terror. He's also got a Source Scar Veteran bodyguard here. Looks like he's carrying this Plaque of Dominion, which gives a -8 leadership in area of effect on activation. Very good stuff. In terms of infantry, he's got 4 Source Warriors with shields, 4 Skink Cohorts. He's also got 4 Feral Cold Ones and 2 Cold Ones Spear Riders. So we've got 2 Feral Cold Ones and a Spear Rider out on this flank, and then probably the Mirror out on this flank. Going to be doing some early skirmishing with these Sisters of Thorn, kind of pulling this Feral Cold One away. If we can get them to enrage, then they're pretty much mine. Even if we were just to turn around and charge these guys in combat, they don't have the best combat stats. Sisters of Thorn might take some damage there, but with their physical resistance, a quick hit and run might be nice. But I'm content to just shoot at range with their poison missiles. Although this is a relatively cheap unit, if we can just negate its value right away without it getting any value in return, that's going to be really nice. You can see they have hit that in range, so we're just going to be able to kite them back to our own lines here and potentially, get in the Azrai Spear for support and just finish it off. Meanwhile, we're trying to do the same over on this other flank. I've got the Glady and the Hagbane tips moving up just to kind of poke away at these Feral Cold Ones. Once again, if we can get them to enrage and chase us away, then, we'll be able to pretty much just get free damage on them. So can see those Hagbane tips are going to be applying that poison debuff. which means their speed will be somewhat slowed, and that's one of the main issues that the Lizardmen are going to face in this particular matchup, is the Wood Elves have poison and they're a lot faster, so it's hard for the Lizardmen units to catch them. I mean, if we even compare basic Saurus Warriors, for example, only have 31 speed, which at the end of the day is actually pretty slow. You compare that to even like the basic Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts. These guys have 36 speed, meaning they'll be able to outrun Saurus Warriors. Skinks, on the other hand, are pretty quick at 46 speed, but the Skink cohort is going to even struggle to deal with the Glade Guard in melee. I mean, it's relatively even, but you can see we've dealt with the Feral Cold One with the War Dancers and the Sisters of Thorn together there. Trying to pull this Saurus Scar Veteran out of position, doing a little bit of missile damage, just kind of poking away at him. Of course, applying that nice poison, and the Glady's missile attack actually does quite a bit of damage. You know, the Scar Veteran does have 100 armor, but still, you know, sustained missile fire will do quite a bit of damage, and the Wood Elf Archers don't have the worst AP stats. I mean, if you look at the Hagbane tips here, 4 AP is actually pretty decent for a missile, you know, for a non-AP missile, quote-unquote. That's usually where, you know, where the better tier missiles are, but you can see we're just kind of pulling up. Pharaoh's looking to be engaging with his Skinks on the Eternal Guard, which is great. They're going to trade pretty efficiently there. Eternal Guard are one of those units that will trade very well with higher tier troops, but they tend to trade poorly with low tier troops. So if you can saturate them with low tier infantry like these Skinks, that's actually the perfect engagement. The Skinks may not win, but they'll trade pretty effectively. We were able to get a charge in with these Glade Riders with the Hagbane tips on these Skinks, just breaking their charge and their advance early on, then going to be following up with the Eternal Guards. So we'll be able to hold this line fairly well. Pharaoh's doing a great job pulling around with his Cold Ones here, going to be trying to compromise this flank. Meanwhile, up through the pipe, because I've kind of overextended a little bit here, that has left quite a big gap here, so Pharaoh's going to look to exploit this with this unit of Feral Cold Ones here. Same idea on this flank, just fix with the Skinks, while the main push comes up the center to overwhelm these two War Dancers. But the four units of Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts are still online, and they're opening up shots. We've got Kroq-gar pinned with the Prey of Anathrema there in the back, and we're going to be opening up with all 4 units of Starfire Shafts, trying to take him down as quickly as possible, just do as much damage in the early game. Unfortunately, we did get a little bit of a charge here in with the Feral Cold Ones, but I immediately followed up with the War Dancers, and even the Glade Riders with the Hagbane tips are going to come support in this engagement. Because the Feral Cold Ones have relatively poor combat stats, the Glade Riders with Hagbane tips will actually do pretty decently here, especially saturated with all these War Dancers, and you can see this Glade Guard actually took relatively little damage. Looks like they're stabilizing. This unit of Glade Guards, on the other hand, definitely took the brunt of that charge there. I was a little bit slow with following up with this unit of War Dancers, but, you know, they'll be okay. Glade Guards don't have the worst combat stats in the world, so once the charge wears off, they'll actually stand up all right in that fight. Meanwhile, these other 2 Glade Guards are still just securely firing away at Kroq-gar, but this big heavy push on this side is coming. I've got these Sisters of Thorn here just kind of screening this advance. They're here to mostly just as a distraction tool and to kind of delay here. You know, they obviously will get a little bit of damage done. Cold One Spear Riders do have a missile block chance, but their relatively large hitbox means that as they're pulling away and to the side, they can relatively easily be hit. Over here, I was a little bit over-aggressive with the Glade Riders, the Hagbane tips here, but we are able to bog Kroq-gar down and just continue to shoot him up with the Starfire Shafts. You can see we've done quite a bit of damage to him. He's about 30% of his HP. Granted, he still does have 2 Cold Bloods in the pocket with these Skink Priest and the Scar Veteran here. Skink Priest, Lord of Heavens, is honestly a very good pick here. He's got the Wind Blast and I believe, yeah, Curse the Midnight Wind for that attack, but an armor debuff, which that minus 30 armor will put most Wood Elf units down to 0 armor. So a little bit of mismicro here. I'm running into this fight with the Saurus with the Glade Guards, which is definitely not what I want, but dropping that Earthblood, trying to keep these War Dancers here and also heal up, you know, the damage that these Glade Guards have taken. The Sisters of Thorn did an effective job of screening out this flank, but unfortunately I'm going to forget about them for a little bit. They would have definitely been useful in this fight over here, but the flank has been compromised. Pharaoh's going to be coming in with these Cold One Spear Riders, getting into the chicken coop, so to speak, and charging into that 1 unit of Glade Guards, but it looks like the order was actually on this unit of Glade Guards. We do catch him with the Prey of Anathrema, though. Unfortunately, the Glady is kind of getting circle beaten by these Saurus Spear Riders here. They're definitely giving her the business. It's hard to even see where she's at in there, all with all this Cold Ones everywhere. But these two Eternal Guards are holding very admirably on this flank. Over here, same thing. I mean, again, the Skinks won't win this combat, but they'll be able to hold up and trade pretty decently considering they're a cheaper unit, and, you know, they were able to hold up these guys for a pretty good amount of time, whereas the center pocket is designed a little bit of chaos here. The Saurus Warriors are enraged, but they have broken through, and I'm just having a hard time pulling away all my Glade Guards. You know, I definitely should be pulling back to maybe this position, or even, you know, right on the edge of the forest there. I mean, we are Wood Elves, of course, so we should be fighting in the forest, but yeah, Kroq-gar's got his paws on the Glady here. She's in a really bad situation, but you see how there's this little gap on this side? I'm going to be able to sneak away on that side, and yeah, going to be dropping that Earthblood just to keep the Glady in the fight as long as possible. This Branch Wraith has been MVP. He's currently running around chasing this poor little Skink Priest, and he's a pretty scary melee combatant, honestly. He's got 60 armor, physical resistance, decent combat stats, and you know, he has the, you know, with the melee attack buff, he has 52 melee attack. Doesn't have armor piercing, but against a squishy caster like the Branch Wraith, he'll definitely give him the business. You can see him just absolutely bullying this poor Skink. What did that Skink Priest ever do to you, Branch Wraith? But anyway, you can see we've been able to push off a lot of the advance here. We're going to be bringing back some of these guys to just kind of hold up. This flank, this pocket, I should say, has broken, so these forces are going to be advancing now. But we've been able to mostly secure the back line. I mean, it's a little bit rough here. We've got the War Dancers kind of just sitting around not doing anything. Once again, the Glady has been caught by the Cold Wind Spear Riders, but the Milkos Mystifying Miasma from the Branch Wraith should help out there. Definitely don't want to be fighting the Saurus Scar Veteran, though. I mean, he does have heavy armor piercing, so he'll be able to do quite a bit of damage to the Branch Wraith, but finally remembered my Sisters of Thorn. Going to be bringing them back in the late game here, getting a nice little charge into these Skinks here, and yeah, they'll be okay in this fight. They're going to overrun straight into the Saurus here and actually probably do quite a bit of damage to them as well. Those Skinks are probably out of the fight, and they'll be able to hang around a little bit for the Saurus, but I definitely need to pull them away as soon as possible, and I am going to forget to do so. So they'll take a lot more damage than necessary, but, you know, it's a pretty chaotic battle, as you can see from the units just running absolutely everywhere. We do have this guy trapped with the Prey of Anathrema and inundated with the War Dancers with the Azrai Spear. Honestly, you know, it's looking a little bit rough. A lot of my infantry is very, very tattered, and there's still a couple healthy groups of Saurus Warriors. You know, these Cold Wind Spear Riders are still hanging around, and Kroq-gar has got quite a bit of Cold Blood healing. And, you know, I'm having a hard time keeping this Glady alive. I was about to drop an Earthblood there, but the Branch Wraith unfortunately actually got knocked over. Glady's going to take a hit there that'll send her down to 236 hit points. She's going to barely squeak away there, but we do finally get a surround on Kroq-gar with the War Dancer Azrai Spears. They're going to be able to do quite a bit of damage to him just immediately. Nice Wind Blast, though, from that Skink Priest, and Pharaoh's just been relentlessly dropping that Wind Blast, just tearing away at my low armor infantry. You can see the balance of power is not favoring me too much at this point. It's looking to be a little bit in Pharaoh's favor. Things are not looking great. I've only got the 2 tattered units of Glade Guard left, and there's still quite a bit of Lizardmen on the field. We do have these 2 Eternal Guards, though, here. A couple more Eternal Guards here, holding off this 1 unit of Saurus Warriors. Unfortunately, the Sisters of Thorn did rout, but they were able to do a lot of damage to this unit of Saurus Warriors and hold it up for quite some time, which has then allowed us to turn around. We finished off these 2 units of Saurus Warriors here for the most part, and I'm just keeping the Branch Wraith now with these War Dancers with Azrai Spear to give them that melee attack buff, as well as to protect the Branch Wraith, because the Glady might come back from routing. It looks like actually she is rallying now, but with her health this low, her leadership is going to be super shaky, and she'll probably just rout off the side of the map shortly. So keeping this Branch Wraith alive is going to be priority number 1 for me. If I want to come back in this battle, the balance of power is definitely not in my favor, but it is still doable, you know, especially if we take this engagement in the forest, where the Saurus Scar Veteran and Kroq-gar will both be suffering forest penalties since they count as large units, whereas obviously all my units in here are infantry, so they won't suffer those forest penalties. So it's definitely advantageous to me, and thematic, of course, as well, to fight in the woods here. And the War Dancers with the Branch Wraith will be able to put up a pretty decent fight here. Over on this side, that other unit of a relatively healthy Saurus did come into this fight, and you know, is supporting here. So these Eternal Guards have started to lose pretty badly, but the Sisters of Thorn have rallied, and you can see them prancing in on their glowing reindeer. Going to be getting a really nice rear charge, and for how light these cavalry should be, they seem to have a lot of mass. I'm not really sure how that charge seems more impactful than a lot of other units of heavy cavalry, but I digress. That is going to hopefully be able to break the morale of one of these units. These Sisters of Thorn only have about 150 hit points left, give or take, so they're very, very low at this point, but you can see the Branch Wraith is leaving the safety of his Azrai Spear to come hunt down the Skink Chief here, knowing the deadliness of that potential Wind Blast against the low armor of these Azrai Spear. So he's going to be beating up this poor little Skink Chief here, and sending him on his way, telling him not to come back. These are his woods, and so on. And Hand of the Gods here. Kroq-gar still fighting. Man, that looks so cool. Yeah, he's just not having the greatest time. Branch Wraith is still alive, so we're just continuously dropping that Earthblood, trying to keep these War Dancers fighting relatively fresh. We have routed Kroq-gar, and he's probably going to be finished off. You can see that's flipped the balance of power finally in my favor after just slogging it out for so long. But Kroq-gar is going to go down here, and that will be the dagger for the Lizardmen. You can see a lot of their forces now wavering. I mean, their leadership is still being held up somewhat by the Scar veteran here, but these guys are going to have a rough time. It's mostly large units left at this point in this pocket. This very critical engagement here up against these Azurai Spear. They're going to be able to drag down what's left of these Cold One Spear Riders, as well as this Scar veteran here. Whereas the last of my infantry was finished off over here, as well as the Sisters of Thorn. You know, they held up for long enough that we were able to win this very pitched engagement, you know, in this back line here. And man, what a game. Very well played to Pharaoh War. It's one of the best games I've played in quite a while. Very, very close. You can just see the pure amount of carnage here. And the mainline engagement kind of took place here, and you can see how far back we actually fell back with those, man, just all that separation. Bodies strewn all the way across the field. But yeah, it was a very, very close game. Well played to Pharaoh. And yeah, let's take a look at the breakdown. So really nice kills on these two Eternal Guards that got a clean engagement on the Skinks. You know, they'll definitely hold their own in that engagement. They have the good enough melee defense to just kind of stand there and take it for a while. War Dancers with Azurai Spear were absolute MVPs here, and helping to take down those Cold One Spear Riders, as well as Kroq-gar and the Scar veteran. These guys will be great against dinos as well, and just as long as they don't get shot up by Skinks too much, they can definitely be super effective. The Sword Dancers didn't do as well in this particular fight as I have had them in the past, but they just give you a little bit more oomph in that mainline fight. They definitely got run over pretty hard by those Saurus and the Cold Ones, though. And yeah, the Starfire Shafts didn't do as much work in this as they have done in some of my other games, but there were no large dinos to shoot at. It was mostly, you know, infantry and cavalry, so they did okay, you know, help poke away at some of those more armored units, but still the support was nice. Glade Riders with Hagbane Tips, same thing. They did some nice early skirmishing, but probably threw them away a little bit prematurely. Branch Wraith, though, was super MVP, beating up that Skink Priest, doing that Earthblood thing, and just holding the leadership of all my troops together until the end, as well as that melee attack buff for these War Dancers and that late game. Sisters of Thorn as well, of course, 99 kills and an XP chevron, most of those coming against, you know, Saurus, as well as the Feral Cold Ones. Really nice work done on these gals here. So, for Pharaoh's army, these Saurus, man, 123, 105, 104, and 95 against Wood Elves, guys, who have relatively low model count units, I mean, comparatively. So, that's an impressive kill total. Saurus warriors with shields have high enough weapon strength that they can just beat the brakes off of most Wood Elf units. The War Dancers with Azurai Spear will trade somewhat evenly with them. I need to do a little bit of testing. I've actually been meaning to do some testing with the Wood Elves, but, you know, it's a bit of give and take. The Feral Cold Ones is an interesting choice. It does give you a cheap mobile option, which is always nice against the Wood Elves, but I think these guys are just a little bit too flimsy to pull off. Maybe if you were to cut these guys and cut these Cold One Spear Riders down to just regular Cold One Riders, because they're a little bit cheaper. Or, you know, you could always go with the heavy skirmish build. So actually, let's talk about a few things in terms of the Lizardmen in this particular matchup. I definitely like where Pharaoh went with that, with the no large dinos and just a ton of infantry. So you could do Kroq-gar. You could even do something like this. This is something me and Loremaster of Sotek were talking about the other day. If you grab the Light Slon, he's relatively cheap. He can take the banishment. You can grab this Blood Statuette of Spite and the Aura of Pretzels. I know it's not actually an Aura of Pretzels, but I just can't not call it that. I mean, it's a Slon, right? Of course, it's the Aura of Pretzels. So, could even grab the actual banishment and, you know, or not, and as well as a Net of Ammontok. Very cheap choice, and he can actually do quite a bit of magic damage, you know, with everything. It also gives you the net to pin down, you know, pesky elf units. Then you could do something like this. Honestly, you probably don't need the most stopping power in the world to take down an Elf Lord, so you could probably do something like this. With the two Skink Chiefs on the Pterodons, that should give you enough stopping power in the air. Then you could do something like this, maybe grab 4 of these guys, 4 Saurus Warriors with shields. Let's grab the Skink Cohorts with javelins, and then that leaves us with 600 points left. You probably want a Revivification Crystal, although even then it's still a risk to bring that against the Wood Elves, just because of the armor-piercing missiles. So maybe you say no Revivification Crystal this time. Maybe we'll just grab some Chameleon Skinks, just for some additional missile pressure, or, you know, if You could always even just say Pterodon Riders, although again, these guys are very vulnerable to missiles, whereas the Chameleon Skinks obviously have that missile resistance, so something like this. I mean, I haven't tested this build per se, but it's kind of a little bit of a modification of what Pharaoh brought here. Just a bit of tinfoil hatting. I might try this Light Slot out up against a Wood Elf build just to see how it works, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.